Hello, YouTube and Patreon. This is Nathan P. Butler, and this is our project update for the month of, what is this? August 2021. It really does all start to blur together after a busy summer term and a crazy beginning to a new fall term, but I'm sure I'll get to that at some point. So first, let me thank you all who are backers over there on my Patreon. That is definitely a very helpful thing to kind of keep the projects going, to keep new things entering the collection, to allow me to showcase them here, showcase them in the book, and so on and so on and so on. Again, over on Patreon, it is patreon.com/NathanPButler, and there are 3 tiers over there. The first tier gets a thanks in videos like these, in the credits, and of course, I say them out loud as long as there's a manageable number of people. And then we do have the Patreon credits page, or thanks page, in each of the 3 volumes of A Saga on Home Video 2nd edition. But of course, whether there will ever be a 3rd edition or not, I don't know, or anything that would somehow allow adding more people beyond the publishing point of 2nd edition. So if you want to get in on that, make sure you get on that soon. And let me thank those who are members of that tier. That is the Travelers Through the Butlerniverse. The $1 tier, that is Kai Jacoby, Bon Linez, Travis Cook, Caleb Owens, Justin Richard, Preston Ellis, Jeremy Goss, Ben Abrams, Michael Torson, Jacob Kapoor, Tony Jenkins, Kevin Kriener, there you go, said it right that time, Austin Pierce, and Chris Walker. Then we have the Denizens of the Butlerniverse. Those folks are the $5 tier, and these are the folks who get what the first tier got, but also access to those 2 audio commentaries at least per month. Typically these days, it is currently the Clone Wars, with commentaries released on the 1st and the 15th of every month. As we sort of make our way through the series, we are in the midst of basically season 5 now, so we don't have a whole lot to go before I have to decide, is it Rebels or what is going to be next? Those folks include Story Mode, Craig Clayton, Matt DeRochers, Daniel Marchant, Travis Taylor, Andrew Gilbertson, Walker Langstrat, Joey Zitzman, Stephen Malicia, Robert Medina, Bobby Craig, Jeremiah Mustard, and Jason Hunt. And Story Mode there reminds me, if you are someone who is a backer or a supporter over there on Patreon, and you've given me only like your first name or a username as the way that you show up on my Patreon here, and you want to be credited by your actual first and last name as opposed to a username or just first name, in A Saga on Home Video 2nd edition, you will need to let me know what name you go under. Because right now, we'd be talking about, like, for instance, with Story Mode, it'd be like Story Mode in quotes, right? As opposed to it actually being a name. So just let me know if you are among those who need to let me know an updated name, not for these videos or anything like that, but for the book specifically, and I'll get that taken care of. I'll make sure to make a note of that for you. And then, of course, we have the top tier over there on Patreon, which is the $10 tier, which is the Nobility of the Butlerniverse, who get what everybody else gets, plus access to that exclusive Q&A video every month, where they get to ask the questions, I provide the answers. It's a little more informal, it's a little more long form. Each of those videos tends to run anywhere between about half an hour to an hour, depending on the number of questions. Typically with questions being asked by 2 or 3 people. So we do have some people who sort of have that tier to support and just to watch, not to ask questions, but they certainly are welcome to at any time. So those include Joe Belich, Connor Steierman, Jeff Rabjohns, Matthew Hardesty, Kyle Pellegrini, Innes, Jonathan Comfer, Sam Howard, Andrew Bettis, and Benjamin Handelman. Again, Benjamin has been here since the beginning. He was the original Patreon supporter and continues to be such there in that top tier over there. So what has come out since the last of these project update videos? Well, on August 1st, we had the Clone Wars commentary for The Gathering. And then, of course, on August 15th, we had the next episode, which was a Test of Strength. Both of those are Clone Wars commentaries from the Young Jedi arc. And then on August 2nd, we actually had a fairly early in the month release of the 44th exclusive Q&A video for the Nobility of the Butlerniverse. As to what is coming soon, just so you can kind of plan ahead or think ahead if you're considering the Patreon or you are someone who is a supporter over there and want to know what's coming up. We have the commentary for Bound for Rescue and then Unnecessary Bond, both coming up in September along with the September Q&A video. In October, we have Secret Weapons and A Sunny Day in the Void. Yes, I finally recorded that commentary along with the October Q&A. Then we have Missing in Action and Point of No Return in November. All of those are already recorded, already ready to go, already set up for release, although I'm thinking I might take down my pre-prepared episode for Missing in Action and tweak it and put it back up, like a little note or something on it, because at the time that I was recording that, Gregor had not yet shown up in the Bad Batch, and now he has, so we know a little bit more of his story. So I'm not sure if I want to add a little note there, or if just whenever I record the next episode, which would begin the Shadow Collective arc, if I should make a mention of that like early in that arc or something like that, just kind of looking back on it. Because I do tend to record these a little ahead, and now that Bad Batch is airing, it tends to sometimes influence what might have been said. If I had still been doing the Clone Wars commentaries, maybe for the Ryloth arc, if we were still back in Season 1 or something, I would have been able to talk about Hera and all in Bad Batch as well. It's just kind of, any commentary is going to be a product of the time in which, of course, it is being made. And then that would then take us forward into December with the Shadow Collective arc, which would then continue into January. That's the Darth Maul and so on arc. And then February, March would then be the Ahsoka walking away from the Jedi Order arc, which would then get us into Season 6, which is a little bit shorter than most. Then Season 7, significantly shorter than most. And then Clone Wars is done. So we are kind of nearing the point where the light at the end of the tunnel is visible. Now, beyond that, of course, most of my stuff at this point is being put out through YouTube. It is the From the Star Wars Home Video Library stuff and a few incidental videos here and there from time to time. We started this past month, since the last of these project updates back on, I guess, the 25th or so of July, with episode 413 of From the Star Wars Home Video Library, and that continued on through episode 419. So we took a look at a Clone Wars film DVD from Australia that came with bonus temporary tattoos. Then we took a look at the original individual releases on DVD of the prequels from the UK. We took a look at the 2005 Family Pack Limited Edition, damn right it's limited, right? No bonus disc, trilogy set on DVD, also from the UK. You had kind of a weird catch-all miscellaneous episode. I call it Miscellaneous 1, where basically it was just kind of a little bit of everything, right? Just stuff that maybe could be shown, like the advertisement for the 2000 VHS set in Japan, that kind of stuff. They just really didn't fit other episodes in and of themselves unless they were super, super tiny episodes and a lot of supplemental stuff. So I just kind of combined them into a single episode. Then we had an episode where we looked at the blockbuster lithographs from 1995 and 1997, one of which I think is more like a lobby card kind of thing. I did, by the way, get a chance to replace that. I told you that mine has a slight crease in it for the 1997 one. I did replace it. In fact, I replaced it kind of twice, because the replacement one that was supposed to be in great condition that I got first from a seller who was selling multiple copies of it came really damaged. The packaging was all bent out of shape by the time it got here and kind of destroyed the item inside. That person was very quick in responding and sending a replacement. That one showed up in perfect condition, so I'll be taking new pictures for the book of that just to get rid of that slight crease in the image, even though I doubt anybody would have really noticed or cared. Then we had an episode that looked at some trailer, basically 35mm, I believe it was, reels from theaters. And then we had the bizarre episode, which looked at the Bulgarian VHS 2-pack of Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones that was used to promote Revenge of the Sith, but came in some form with a deal with prepaid cell phones. Really an odd one here. So beyond that, nothing else actually released on the channel. I do have 3 episodes of From the Star Wars Home Video Library that I have recorded but haven't had a chance to edit yet. They're short, I just haven't had the time to actually touch them yet. So those were episodes you'll see very soon, hopefully in the next few days here on, let's see, it was the Turkish dubbed Revenge of the Sith VCD to finish out the Turkish dubbed VCD trilogy for the prequels from Turkey. And then we had an Australian DVD release, the double feature for the Ewok telemovies, which actually resembles more like what we saw out of Japan than what we saw in the US. And then we had the, kind of finishing out another trilogy, we had the original Laserdisc release of The Empire Strikes Back from the UK to finish out that initial, release of each film on Laserdisc from the UK. Something that I wasn't sure I was going to be able to get my hands on anytime soon, but I was able to via eBay. So there are some episodes recorded, not a ton right now, but there are some ready to go. And at this point, I'm kind of looking at my shelves over here. We will eventually be looking at the HMV exclusive trilogy DVD sets from the UK, the ones with Anakin on the cover of one and Luke on the cover of the other. I do have the prequel one here now, thanks to Jeff Rabjohns. I'm waiting on the original trilogy one to finally show up. It's winging its way here through eBay, through Hermes, blah, blah, blah. And typically what tends to happen with things shipped that way is they'll sort of say, they're in transit with destination carrier in Monroe something, New Jersey, and then just sit there. And about 10 days later, finally arrive. So that was on, I guess, the 19th or so. So I'm kind of waiting for it to arrive. So hopefully by the end of this month, I'll have that one here. And then Jeff is also helping me to acquire the regular versions from 2008 for the trilogy sets from the UK, because it turns out their packaging is significantly different than ours in the US, and I didn't realize that. It actually more resembles the HMV exclusive versions. I thought that'd be cool to show on the show and in the book. That'll probably, depending on arrival times, very likely be 2 separate episodes. The exclusives probably first, then the regular ones second, depending on when they're actually in my hands and when I get a chance to record about either of them. Beyond that, we are kind of in a point now where we're looking somewhat at more tangential stuff as new episodes are released, or more of those like top whatever type lists. I've got the AFI 100 Years, 100 Movies TV series DVD set that I can show you. I don't think I've shown that on the show yet. I don't know. It all blurs friggin' together at this point. But otherwise, we're looking at sort of the oddball stuff that's in my collection that's sort of tangential, like George Lucas in Love or something like that. There's just not a lot of new releases obviously coming out now, and much of what I've been trying to acquire I've already sort of gotten my hands on and shown on the show. So we'll see how that will go. I am still building up some of those top whatever lists. I haven't quite got any of them to the point where I feel like I'm ready to record any of them yet, but I'm still kind of narrowing that down. I also thought about, just for the YouTube channel, not necessarily from the Star Wars Home Video Library, I thought about doing something in a Q&A vein like I used to do with those mini Q&A videos, except have them be like thematic. Something like, hey, let's talk board games this time, or let's talk virtual reality this time. Stuff that I'm interested in that's not necessarily Star Wars home video, or even Star Wars necessarily at all, or video games or whatever, just to kind of, open the door for some different types of questions, where I'd have to sort of manage it so that I don't run into the same thing I did sometimes with the mini Q&A stuff, which was that people would continue posting questions on a question collection video comment section after the video that answers the questions from that one were already released. So maybe something like I put up a video that it's like a call for questions, but then as soon as I'm ready to record it and I've grabbed all the questions I'm going to actually use from it, maybe I delete that video or unpublish it or something, so that I'm able to, I guess it'd be unpublishing, I suppose, unlisting, so I'm still, or put it on private so I can still see the questions to answer, but not have people keep trying to ask questions at that time. Something like that. I've thought about it. Not quite sure if that's the direction I'm going to go with it. I'll probably make that decision here within about the next month or so. Speaking of the next month or so, speaking of September 2021, before we get into anything with the book, I will say that with the workload right now, I don't know if ButlerCon 2021 or whatever the home video Facebook group folks are trying to call it now, I don't know if that's actually going to happen in September now. We're probably looking at a little bit later on in the year, but hopefully still during 2021. And that is when I set up stamps.com. I put up pictures and let everybody know in the Star Wars Home Video Facebook group what stuff I have available that is Star Wars stuff, that is duplicates that I'm sort of passing off from my collection, and basically ship it out to people essentially for the cost of shipping. In this case, it'll probably plus $1 or $2 so that I can cover the cost of reactivating stamps.com, keeping it active for as long as that takes, and getting all the packing materials and stuff like that. I'm hoping still for September, but at this rate, we're almost at the end of August, and doing that in September feels like an impossibility. It just depends on how things calm down from a work standpoint here, which I'll touch on, but I'll touch on that last because I know a lot of folks don't really care that much about that kind of stuff. Speaking of the book, A Saga on Home Video, that is, did I say anything about it? So speaking of, did that make any sense at all? But the last thing on the list is what's going on with the book here. I am still in the middle of hand editing, but it is a much thinner amount still to hand edit. Everything above the pen, I've edited those page by hand gosh, I feel like I must be getting a migraine or something because I feel like my words aren't coming out right sometimes here. My apologies. What is above the pin, those are pages that have been edited, but I have not inserted those edits into the actual files yet. Such as notes to me on this page that when I am talking about The Phantom Menace on DVD for its first release, I should talk about how the artwork is the same artwork from the VHS release and what kind of art is on the little insert inside, what is on the labels and stuff like that. I'm trying to make sure as I go through that I'm talking about the cover art for everything, the label art for everything. If cover art is reused from somewhere else, particularly a movie poster, I'm pointing out where that is from, and that sort of thing as I go through, along with little other general tweaks. Make sure episode names are in quotes instead of in italics and stuff like that for TV shows. But I'm getting there. I think, let's see, what I have left to edit is the rest of Rise of DVD, Demise of VHS, and then the Lucasfilms in HD, both of those. Those would finish out the editing for Volume 1, but that's a lot of it. And then behind, try to say beyond, I think, Behind the Curtain, and a cantina full of oddballs for Volume 3. Volume 2, I've already gone through all the chapters so far. What I've got now beyond that is a to-do list, a small number of pictures to retake or to take, including like the UK HMB stuff that hasn't all arrived yet, to do a sidebar on, and then a list of sort of to-do list type stuff of what do I need to make sure I talk about that I haven't addressed yet, like the special features of the digital collection release back in 2015. What special features are actually on Disney Plus now. The Disney Plus chapter, by the way, has gotten yet another name change. It's gone from the Baby Yoda show to Disney Pluses and Minuses, which I don't think I ever even put into the book. That was just what I was thinking about, to Baby Yoda and the Bad Batch. But by the time this comes out, we'll also have not only kind of little oddball specials and whatnot, but we'll have Star Wars Visions having already premiered. So I sort of put out a, somebody help me come up with a title for this chapter because I'm drawing a blank type post on the Facebook Star Wars Home Video group, and Jerry Bell came up with the perfect chapter title for a chapter about Disney Plus. Empire of Streams. Beautiful. Love it. My favorite chapter title in all 3 volumes, and I'm not the one that came up with it, which may be why it's my favorite, but definitely a really cool title there. And that chapter has to be completely reworked pretty much at this point structurally, but a lot of the information about the individual shows and stuff can stay. But when I say structurally, I mean like organizationally, what goes where, how it's approached, so that it doesn't come off as this is a chapter about these 2 shows when really it's a chapter about all this stuff on this streaming service, that kind of thing. Oddly enough, a chapter that'll have probably no photos, I guess. Maybe I can use some of the advertisements for Mandalorian that come from other sources, like the Skywalker Saga set in Japan had the Mandalorian advertisement. I don't know. But suffice to say, work is proceeding well. It got a nice big jump in the little teeny tiny gap between summer school and beginning of the new school year. But that was a gap of like 2 weeks. Again, I have not had a break from teaching of more than 2 weeks since August of 2014 at this point. Right now, though, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to get done here in the very near term because the new school year has started. We spent about a week doing training, and then school started, right? And we're about 2 weeks in at this point, which means I am still, I was going to say neck deep. I think I'm like over my head deep in meet the teacher calls and things like that, which is something that we do. We try to reach out to all students and parents, hopefully on the same call, so it's all just 1 call, not 2 per student. By hopefully the end of the first few weeks, it is a requirement. They can't get past a certain point in their courses without the requirement of the calls being done, which means that basically of the last 10 school days, I have spent 7 of them when I have been on the phone for 5.5 hours per day, basically nonstop, doing meet the teacher calls, and I still have almost 100 still to go out of my 210 students. So pretty heavy stuff, and that is 210 that I've made a choice to take, right? I'm a lead teacher. My cap is actually at 144. because you get basically one 36 student block off of the normal maximum to take care of all the lead teacher kind of duties. But I always choose to take on extra students for extra pay. So I'm at 210 at this point. I was at 210 by the end of the first day. So still in the midst of all that, which means a lot of calling and stuff like that. But we're also using a new system. And this new system, we used to use a system called Edgenuity. Lots of video-based lessons, multiple choice quizzes, not a lot of authentic assessments at all where you actually get a chance to have the students sort of express themselves much unless you build it in and add it. And we had a few of those. But it was still a system where a whole lot of stuff was automated for the teacher, so you could focus on supporting the students in other ways rather than constantly being the one doing the manual grading. We now have a new system called Canvas, and it is a much better system for the students. Big time better system, better pacing for the students, a good mixture of types of assessments for students, and a lot of those assessments are things where it's not just multiple choice, they're actually expressing themselves or using things like economic and sociological ideas, which is what I teach right now, in a practical way. It's a fantastic system for the students. For the teachers, it is way more labor intensive than what we used to have, so the actual workload per student for a teacher is now skyrocketing. Absolutely through the roof. I want to say I did the math, and we are grading approximately, at the bare minimum, 3 to 4 times as much stuff as we used to, which basically means that if I'm on the phone for 5.5 hours, while that's happening, grading is piling up, and I'm spending hours and hours on that, often after hours or yesterday. I'm recording this on a Sunday. I did a bunch of grading on a Saturday. I'm going to be doing a bunch of grading today on a Sunday just so I'm not buried on Monday morning. So until the phone call aspect of it slows down a bit, so there's more balance to put time towards a lot of the teacher touched stuff, as we call it, the teacher graded stuff. Because I try to provide feedback with that stuff, not just, hey, here's your number. Congratulations, you got an 80. I'm not going to tell you why. Or here's your 80 based on a rubric. But the rubric is kind of vague, so I'm not going to give you any specifics. I don't like doing that. I tend to want to make sure students know where they can improve, so if they want to improve, they can, as opposed to it just being a number on a screen. Grades are supposed to be communication, not punishment or reward, right? It's supposed to communicate how well they're doing. See, I'm getting into educational philosophy stuff. If you want to get into my head with educational philosophy stuff, a whole lot of stuff that I tend to think tends to be along the same lines of the great educational speaker and writer Rick Wormeli, W-O-R-M-E-L-I. Look up some of his stuff on YouTube. There's some great stuff he's put out. But anyway, until that workload sort of rebalances, even though it's still going to be way more work per student per day than it ever was before in me working for this program. Right now it's just like that plus even more. Until that sort of calms down a little bit, I'm not sure what my days and evenings and weekends are really looking like in terms, in terms of actually getting a whole lot done for this. But I'm trying to. What I'm trying to do is if I've got calls scheduled for 15-minute intervals and I get a small gap of 2 or 3 minutes because one of them ended early, I try to get some grading stuff done to free up time so that once I actually get to the end of the day, I'm not scrambling to still finish grading after hours. I'm able to get in some time with this. But is it feasible to get this done in 4 months? I think yes. Is it feasible to get this done and out in 4 months? I still think yes, but I wonder if what I'm going to find myself doing is doing a lot of the final checks of physical proof copies during my semester break, which is, again, one of the other few 2-week breaks that I have or have had since August of 2014. So anyway, work proceeds well, and it seems like it's going very, very well. I don't feel like there's a lot of stuff I'm going to have to fix in the future. It'll be a matter of just get through this, get anything left on my to-do list in there, get those last pictures dealt with and put in there so that hopefully I don't have any other pickup pictures to take, then do another massive print of the entire thing, but go through with an eye towards I don't want to change anything, I just want to make sure it looks good so that if it does, I can lock those chapters and be ready to go. Just bit by bit by bit by bit, working as time permits. So with that, that's kind of the update for the month here. I will, of course, be back with another update in September. Hope y'all are doing well in this Delta variant surge. Stay safe, stay healthy out there, and yeah, I will be continuing working on this behind the scenes so that hopefully by the end of the year you will have a nice 3-volume set to look at to really dive super deep, very deep, possibly too deep, into Star Wars home video in print. Thanks for your interest, and have a great month.